Hi, everybody, mind the wild. On this channel, we look into the more shamanic and terrestrial aspects of the spiritual realms and practices. And this means that we are more interested in connecting to deities, to primordial forces, to different kinds of natural spirits, and also to um, in gleaning insight into how we take our cues and work with these realms. So in this video, I'll be channeling Our Lady of the Woods, Diana, and I'll be looking into how we take animal omens and how we communicate with these. It is this interesting thing that's going on where animals often act as guides or companions. Of course, in the case of our pets, that's very evident, and anybody who has had a special relationship to an animal in that capacity know that there seems to be like some mystical effervescence where it's this particular animal that seems to need to come into our lives, and and that somehow also cares for us and protects us as we care for it and protects us. So there's a deep bond there. But if you walk the wilds, then of course you, or even just in your bathroom or whatever, spiders may show up, or possibly roaches, depending on where you live. But essentially, these more or less wild animals beyond our control can also show up in our environment, and they are, of course, well, they can be harbingers just of the message that we need to clean the corners or something. But it can also be that they carry a type of message from beyond, a soul message, a guide message. I've had this a lot, in particular in the previous year or so. Before that, it was often, more direct animal omens. So I'd see snakes, for instance, and I'd interpret that in a context, or I'd see birds of prey and interpret that in a context. But then all of a sudden in Hawaii, they started speaking to me, these little lizards, the mo, and they showed up with interesting guidance, and that was also a fairly stressful situation. So it was interesting for me that they showed up here, and it continued in Denmark and in Italy, where here it was kind of the newts, for instance, that showed up, also other lizards. And in Italy, there were lizards, and they began like having messages around assuming a new shape, assuming a new form, assuming a new position in life, like trying to get past the shapeless element that also informs this channeling shamanic practice, this ability to sort of take in all energies, because there isn't too much taking up space already. So in that sense, it's been very interesting for me, and I have it a lot, partially with the toads and the little lizards that inhabit the marshes here. But the other day, I was also out camping just in a nearby plantation area on a meadow there, and I almost stepped on a female viper. I fortunately didn't. She was very beautiful, but I've never seen one of the females before. So they're brown in color and have this zigzag pattern. It's the only poisonous viper we have. I don't remember the English name at the moment, but they live all over the northern parts of Eurasia, I believe. And so that was quite magical, and she had some messages about coming back and taking a stance. So what was happening was that they were having the village festivities right outside. If you wanted to kind of lay siege to my house, you'd put that party tent right where they put it. So that was fairly stressful for me. And so she kind of came to me out there in the woods and had some lessons about going back and assuming the position, and kind of also recognizing, yes, pun intended, right? Because kind of recognizing also the violence of the world, the sense that our sensory perceptions, our configurations are a kind of inconsensual penetration, right? Like something that actually just pours in through our ears and our sensory organs and our mind and everything without us necessarily having too much immediate control of it. And that is a part of the Shakti experience, the manifest world, these physical worlds that just arrest our attention and take us in and change us and interact with us, which is such a huge part of the human experience. So I kind of wanted to share my experience of how they're turning up these magical beasts, these creatures that we share the planet with, and then I want to turn it over to our Lady Diana of the woods to see how you can work with your animal guides and yeah, what perspective she'll share with us. So much love to you out there. Blessed are you. From sacred groves I emerged to share my message with you, humanity. Greetings to you. You know me by the name of Artemis, amongst other names, are Lady Diana. Well, she who walks in the moonlight between the sacred ancient trunks of the woodlands. She who speaks to the herbs that live out there, the wild weeds, as you call them, those I also have use for. There is no voice of nature that I do not take an interest in. There is no voice of nature that I do not know or have least spoken to once in a blue moon. There I walk these spaces where you have long forgone your presence. You have withdrawn your participation from these conversations that always play out in the wild woods, in the wilds. You have went, or you went, have gone into worlds of meditation, higher worlds disconnected from these realms. You fantasize about new planets, new places that are free for you to form according to your pleasures. And yet, what you imagine deep down, what you long for, is that you could turn your lost cousin, Mars, into a pristine and floral paradise. Turn this planet over to Demeter and let her cultivate it with exuberant life. Isn't it strange then that you feel the need to go off world and do this? May I point to the fact that when you seek out nature in this respect, you still seek it out in its controllable, approachable, tamed form. here in the wilds, there is always a threat to your sense of security. There is always a threat that the viper may strike. And so notice that this is the first sign of the animal that shows up announcing to you a message from the gods, from a god, perhaps one that is dear to you and seeks to guide your path. They are always showing up out of the wild. They may be an element of wilderness, controlled, uncontrolled, having crept into a human environment of safe spaces and borders. There is that creepy crawler. There is that slimy fella. There is that disgusting dung eater right there in your home environment where you have sought to banish it. These may come to you, or you may go to the wilderness and behold them taking up their place in a greater order, a better way of being, a thing that incorporates both the wild and those settled spaces, the nests within it. And there you may see birds of prey soaring high, and their pattern on the sky describing and relating to the course and direction of your soul. Where are you going? Why are you going there? Why do you seek to fly when you could crawl? Why do you crawl when you could take flight? Why do you roar your way through the stillness? Why do you sneak and slink and creep when there is nothing to be afraid of? Do you ask yourself these questions? Or do you need me, us, the voices of wilderness, to come to you and make ourselves heard within you? Within, you hear the howling. You feel the great impression that is left on your heart by feeling the wilderness without. This place you abandoned, it is making itself known. Notice the wild voice of nature. It speaks with a telepathic appeal. It lets itself be known by the voice that first speaks with flutters in your heart, moving the wings of the butterfly into the feathers of the hummingbird, fluttering upwards in your heart, and then coming to the spoken, understood words of the raven. Do not think yourself grander than any of these beings. You too were born from the soil. To it you return. What then have you done? What have you moved about? What have you said about in the meantime? Where did you go? Were you guided there? Or did you stumble around, lost in the woods? The deeper you go to the heart of darkness, the wilder it gets within and without, and the easier it is for guides to turn up and turn a light on. Notice then often animals bring forward sides of you that are unknown. Greater courage, greater connection, greater fear. They summon these emotions that are so difficult to access. They are needed exactly because they are not sterile. They are not controllable. They do not fit into the protected, ordered spaces of civilization. My brother Apollo has his realm and his place, but in the wild, we free everything up to speak and help the light of the moon illuminate your path through the darkness. With that, I, the Lady of the Woods, Artemis, I depart. I thank you for heeding my words. Farewell, sweet ones. Farewell, wild beings. Hoping that served you. Much love to you guys.